Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom. I'm David Mencer, Israeli government spokesman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate in the Office of the Prime Minister. It's Monday, the 6th of January, day 458 of the October 7th war. Very quick update from me, and then straight to your questions. Please put them in the chat together with your news outlet. Let me start today with this morning's terrorist attack near Kedumim. 3 Israelis were murdered, 2 women in their 60s and 1 man in his 40s. 8 people were wounded and, of course, families shattered. Terrorists opened fire on cars and a bus this morning in Al-Funduk. Our army is currently conducting a manhunt for the gunman. I might also add that there has been next to no international media coverage of this terrorist attack. But for us, it's part of a vicious and despicable wave of terrorism aimed at causing harm to our people. Reported or not, Israel will do everything in its power to find the murderers and settle accounts with them and with all those who aided them. No doubt, when we catch and eliminate the terrorists, it will be reported with a headline which starts with Palestinians killed today, with the word terrorists in inverted commas. We know that this terror attack against Israelis is a direct result of the incessant incitement. It's directed by Hamas and Iran, and it's an attempt to bring about more murderous violence against innocent civilians. Let me make this clear. There will be no safe havens for terrorists in Judea and Samaria. The IDF and the security forces will thwart terrorists throughout the region, focusing on North Samaria, from where the murderous attacks have been launched. The Prime Minister sent heartfelt condolences to the families of the 3 people who were murdered in this terrible attack this morning and wishes for a full recovery to those wounded. He said that we will find the abhorrent murderers and settle accounts with them and all those who aided them. No one will get away. Regarding our hostages, the Prime Minister's office this morning said that the list of hostages that has been published in the media was not provided to Israel by Hamas, but was originally given by Israel to the mediators in July 2024. So once again, it is almost precisely the opposite as reported in the media. As yet, Israel has not received any confirmation or comment from Hamas regarding the status of the hostages appearing on that list. Israel will continue to act relentlessly for the return of all our hostages. 100 of them, the living and the deceased. They are women, they are children, they are men, and they are the elderly. 458 days. Secretary of State Blinken said in his interview for the New York Times that there has not been nearly enough international pressure on Hamas to release them, to surrender, to end this war. He made clear when there is pressure on Israel, Hamas walk away from the negotiations and walk away from a deal. That has been consistently the case. A reminder that when the BBC journalist Alan Johnston was taken hostage in Gaza in 2007 and eventually released by Hamas, it was only after a huge 4-month international campaign. Mr. Blinken remarked that, strangely, there has not been the same pressure put on Hamas internationally to set our people free and to surrender. So let me also reiterate that, especially on the hostage issue, there is no daylight between Israel and the Biden administration and the future Trump administration. Now to the ceasefire in the north in Lebanon. Let me make our position clear. Israel will continue to enforce the agreement and will respond with force to any violation. We want the agreement to endure, but as our defense minister has stated, we are witnessing increasing violations by Hezbollah. Now, for the agreement to endure, there must be no Hezbollah south of the Litani River, only the Lebanese army and UNIFIL. As Defense Minister Katz said, we are committed to maintaining the agreement with Lebanon, and will continue to enforce it fully and without compromise to ensure the safe return of the northern residents to their homes. but the first condition for the agreement is the complete withdrawal of the Hezbollah terrorist organization beyond the Litani River, the dismantling of all weapons and the thwarting of terrorist infrastructure in the area by the Lebanese army. This has yet to happen. The defense minister also made clear that if this condition is not met, that means there will be no agreement, and Israel will need to defend itself to ensure the safe return of northern residents to their homes. We will not allow renewed threats into Israel's northern cities and villages. Next on Kogat and aid going into Gaza, our latest figures show Israel preventing a humanitarian crisis in Gaza to support Gazans in accordance with international law. So to date, since the start of this war, nearly 60,000 trucks have entered Gaza since the beginning of the war, over 1,300,000 tons of humanitarian aid. This includes more than 32 million litres of fuel, 52,000 litres of water, 27,000 tons of cooking gas, and more. Now, it's clear that Hamas hate Gazans. Why do we say that? We say that because Hamas steal the aid and actually rocket, as they did over the last 2 days, the Erez crossing from where the aid actually comes in to Gaza to feed Gazans in need. So that's the end of our briefing here today. I will now take your questions. Please put your news outlet together with your question. First question I can see here is from Hannah Julian at the Jewish Press, Shavua Tov. Multiple news outlets have published a list of the 34 hostages that Hamas has allegedly agreed to free on condition that Israel withdraws its forces from Gaza and implements a permanent ceasefire. The Prime Minister denied last night that Israel has received any hostage list from Hamas. Can you please clarify the facts and the present status of talks? Thank you for that question, Hannah. In my briefing just a few moments ago, I gave a full rundown of the current situation. That is correct. Israel has not received a list of hostages currently being held by Hamas. It has not sent us who is alive and who is dead, or their condition, or any of these details. They have not done any of those things. Now, once again, I've seen it reported in Reuters, on BBC, that Hamas did send us this list, and this is repeated without any question, as if to paint the situation where it is Israel who is dragging their feet when it comes to these hostage negotiations, when in fact it is precisely the opposite. And Secretary Blinken made that point crystal clear. These negotiations have been led by the US, and on this issue there is no daylight whatsoever between the US administration, both the current one and the future one, and Israel. No daylight whatsoever. It is Hamas which continues to drag its feet. And I must say that media that repeat the claims of Hamas that they have somehow given us this list simply perpetuate this conflict, because they do not put any pressure for real reporting on Hamas. They take their word for things. Hamas are a genocidal terrorist organization. I mentioned before that they took hostage a BBC journalist in 2007. Hamas hate freedom, and the BBC repeating their claims, false though they are, do no service whatsoever to both honest reporting and also an end to this conflict. Hamas must release the hostages, lay down their arms, and this war will be over. Next question from Joel Pollack at Breitbart News. Is there any prospect that there could be peace between Israel and the new Syrian government? Thank you for that question, Joel. I put it this way. Quiet will be met by quiet, and fire will be met by fire. We know precisely what the heritage and what the providence is of these terrorist, of the new administration inside Syria. We know from where they were born. We know that they, Al-Jilani and the others, have welcomed the terrorist attacks of October 7th, 2023. We know that they welcomed those attacks. So, look, Israel is taking all necessary steps to defend and ensure the security of our northern border, specifically the Golan Heights and the entire civilian population. We have no interest whatsoever in conflict with Syria. Let me say that again. We have no interest whatsoever in conflict with Syria. We would prefer a peaceful border between the two countries, and we've got no intention whatsoever interfering in Syria's internal affairs. But we will not tolerate a situation that endangers our civilians and allows Iran to again re-establish itself in the region and to transfer weapons to Hezbollah. Our Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has said that we underscore the need to urgently safeguard Syria's minorities, including the Kurds, including the Alawites, including the Christians. Our Foreign Minister has said that the new government in Damascus has not been democratically elected, but even more troubling is that they are talking about the elections that will take place only after 4 years. That is a long way. But when it comes to Israel's point of view, peace will be met by peace, quiet will be met by quiet, and fire will be met by fire. Next question from Joel Pollock. Why do you think there are conflicting reports in the media about an imminent hostage deal? Thank you for that question, Joel. I think it's a responsibility of journalists to report this conflict accurately and not to take the words shared with them by Hamas spokespeople at face value. As much as this is a war on the ground, this is a propaganda war as well. Secretary Blinken said that when pressure is put on Israel internationally, then they walk away from a deal. Hamas have always walked away from a deal. So, look, we know the reality on the ground. This is a democratic country with a democratic government, and when we share with you our comments and statements, they are the statements of a democratic government. We have said that to this day, to this moment, Hamas have not shared with us who is alive, who is dead, or indeed the names. Now, they say to journalists that, oh, if only there was a ceasefire, they could find out where the hostages were and what their condition was. Do me a favour, honestly. Any journalist that repeats that, as it has been repeated to me on the BBC, that Hamas don't know 458 days on the conditions of our hostages. They know precisely who is alive and who is dead. They know precisely where the hostages are. And just remember this fact. Gaza is a very small place. Okay? Hamas know exactly where they are. So journalists repeating the talking points of Hamas does no service to getting the truth out there whatsoever. Next question here is, from Joel Pollock, why did the new weapons deal announced by the Biden administration exclude D9 bulldozers? Thank you for that question, Joel. I haven't got any further information on that, or even if that is a correct reflection of the facts. I can tell you that whether it is the past administration or the future US administration, the relationship between Israel and the US is ironclad. Irrespective, it is bipartisan, and that has been reflected by the facts. So I haven't got any further information on that. Next question here is from Jody Cohen from Newsmax. Defense Minister Katz has warned the ceasefire with Hezbollah could be in jeopardy if Hezbollah doesn't withdraw from South Lebanon. Has Israel seen indications from the Lebanese armed forces that it will deploy in South Lebanon and ensure Hezbollah fully retreats? Thank you for that question, Jody. I did make some comments from Foreign Minister Katz just towards the end of my briefing here today and our position on that. Let me further elaborate. There have been cases, there have been incidences inside Lebanon where Hezbollah have been moved aside and the Lebanese army have taken their place, but they have by no means been across the board, and there remain areas where Hezbollah is still entrenched, and they have certainly not moved behind the Litani River. And that was a key stipulation in the ceasefire agreement after the period of time of the agreement. They have not pushed. They have not evacuated the area between our northern border and the Litani River. And the agreement makes clear that that the Lebanese army must enforce that deal, that there should be no armed forces in that area between the Litani River and our border other than the Lebanese army or UNIFIL, the United Nations force. We've been here before. The difference this time is Israel believes in enforcement, and Israel will enforce this agreement. Okay, that seems to be the last question for today. So, thank you for joining us. In the usual way, you can contact us for interview or for comment. So, in the meantime, please do stay safe, and we'll catch you at the next briefing. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.